Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm finally back again, and welcome to Ask the Cheeseman. We'll just wait for a few more people to turn up, and I'll just check if. Oh, yep, YouTube says it's all good, which is fantastic. Got more little notifications happening that I know what to do with. So people will flock to the channel very soon. So that should be good. Now, can somebody give me a sound check because I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've got the setup running. I'll wait. Okay, thanks, Kim, for the thumbs up. We'll get started, shall we?
Well, g'day, curd nerds. G'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds.
Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, g'day, curd nerds. Well, welcome back. As I said, back after a little break last week. I wasn't feeling very well. Headaches were getting the best of me, but I'm okay at the moment. In fact, I've had headaches every day, and some pretty bad ones since last Wednesday. Today's the first day it's actually been fairly clear and not very fuzzy. But anyway, enough of my medical issues. A big shout out to Joy. She was the first one on the chat this morning. G'day to Matthew from Canada. Um, I'll just say Yana. How's that sound? G'day, Sarah and Abdul and Auntie and Lucas and RS. MJ, hello, how are you? And Shlomo, oh, they're all the regulars are back. So good, it's fantastic. And I got some treats for you this morning as well. Um, uh, well, how do I start? So first, I'll start with my list. I've got a list of things to talk about. So the very first thing is, of course, the patrons. Without patrons, the show doesn't go on. So big shout out to Wendy Kitty Cats. I don't know if she's on. Her time zone's a bit strange today. She's one of my patrons now, which is fantastic. And a big hello to Linda, and you both know who you are. So on the video front, this weekend, I'm planning to get some taste tests done. So the queso chihuahua is ready to be eaten, as is the same on sale, which is the hard blue cheese. The pecorino ricotta, which I showed everybody in that how to remove what was it called? How to remove runaway mold or something like that. Mold-ridden cheese. That will be ready for tasting because that's gone fairly hard, and I think it's ready to go. Also on the video front, I've got a big treat. I made this cheese called marbled cheddar. So I'll just show you a quick clip I took of it yesterday. So I made it in the evening. So here we are. Have a look at this. Now, isn't that the sexiest looking cheese you ever did see? That's just after the first pressing. So it's coming together. I pulled it out of the press this morning, so we'll see how that goes. So that looks pretty cool. And last but not least, we have a Fontina update. People are asking on some of the forums that I belong to, they're asking, why don't you show any of the affinage or the maturation, what you do to the cheese as it matures. So, so I've done that. So I've done a Fontina update on what to do with your cheese as you're going along. More specific than just that one there. All right. And of course, the raclette video, if you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It was a labor of love, not only to make the cheese, but to make the video as well. And on that marbled cheddar that I just showed you, it's going to be one of the most complex videos that I've ever produced because I had to split the batch in half. So 5 litres in one pot, 5 litres in the other. One pot was coloured with annatto and the other pot wasn't. That's how I kind of got the marbling effect. So anyway, so let's get on to the, and don't forget during the show, of course, if you want to support, super chat down there, little dollar sign. I think it's as little as $2 US or something. I'm not sure. And that all proceeds go to us, except for processing fees that YouTube take, of course. Okay, let's get on with the questions, shall we? All right. First question is from Martin. And Martin says, "Hi, Gavin. When you use vinegar for sterilising, is it neat or diluted?" It is neat. So the vinegar we get over here is about, I think it's about 15% acetic acid, which is vinegar, and the rest is diluted. It's not. So that's when you get it out of the bottle. So I don't water it down any from that. I spray it on my hands to get rid of any molds and yeasts. It kills a certain amount of bacteria, but not all the bacteria. So I wipe all the bench areas down, definitely the sink area, all that sort of stuff. I give after I've washed my plastic equipment, so the cheese basket, the follower, the cheese press itself. After I scrub them in hot soapy water, I rinse them off with the hottest water I can get out of the tap, because otherwise it buckles. And then after that, I give it a spritz with the vinegar all over and let that just dry off while I'm making the rest of the cheese. So, Martin, hopefully that answers your question. Abdullah says, "I made cheddar exactly as you described in one of your previous videos. However, it didn't come out of the press as smooth as it should. It had wrinkles on its surface. Is that a problem?" The only problem there, Abdullah, is that you didn't press it hard enough. So you would have seen in that clip just here, that's after the first pressing. So that's not pressed hard enough. So that's only an hour at half the amount of pressure. So I think it's about, if I remember right, it was about 11 kilos, 10 kilos roughly. But yeah, so you really got to press it really hard after the second pressing. I close the spring up on the press totally. Then I go back in about every hour and retighten the spring to make sure I've got enough pressure. And it does come out fully closed up and it looks like a proper cheddar. So that's what you've got to make sure you do. Brendan's got a question. He says, a rennet question again. "I've got 140 IMCU rennet that says to use 2.5 milliliters per 100. Yet you use 200 IMCU rennet and use 2.5 mil for 10 litres in your Jarlsberg. How can there be so much difference?" Yeah, good question. I'm not sure because I'm just going off the specification sheet that comes with that rennet. So the rennet that I use is called, it's by C.H.R. Hansen, and it's called Chimax Plus. Obviously a play on words from chymosine, which is the enzyme in rennet that coagulates the milk. So that's the rate that I use it at. And that's fairly close to single strength. In the US, they tend to use 280 IMCU rennet, which is the same as the Mad Millie one, or fairly close to it. And even on that, it says use, what's it say? Use 0.5 milliliter per litre. So that is even worse than what you're saying, Brendan. So really, basically, you got to go on the specification sheet. And if it works, it works. That's a good thing, of course. But yeah, I'll stick to what I'm using, and that seems to work okay. But you really do have to test your rennet. Go by the manufacturer's recommendations, either on the bottle or by their specification sheet, not by the recipe, because rennet strengths vary. Some people people don't tell you where they get their rennet, unfortunately. And even worse, a lot of the recipes don't tell you what IMCU. And I've started to do that on the video recipes that you've seen. So hopefully that helps out, Brendan. Famil says, any tips on acidifying pre-made cheese curds for mozzarella? Shocking the curds in citric acid and water solution, or maybe just apply citric acid powder directly on the curds until their acidity changes. Yeah, so when you make quick mozzarella, you actually add the citric acid up front when the milk is at about 13 degrees Celsius. So you've acidified the milk, not the curds. And then as you progress through, add the rennet when it gets to about 33 Celsius, and then heat it up a little bit more to 40 Celsius. It starts to, it's at the right acidity to stretch the curds. I certainly wouldn't put citric acid powder onto the curds directly. Always add it diluted. But if pre-made cheese curds, if they don't stretch, they should. You've got to heat them up to, was it 170 Fahrenheit, 70 degrees Celsius. So that's the temperature. You've got to heat the curds up before they stretch again. Okay. Hope that helps. Lucas Outdoors says, when you sterilize something in boiling water, how long is it good for? Is there a matter of minutes or hours or a day? I would say it would be a matter of hours. So as long as you cover it up so nothing settles on it. You see in the dentist when they take their stainless steel equipment out of the it's called an autoclave, I think, is how they sterilize everything. And they put little bits of plastic on every single utensil and all that sort of stuff, and they leave that in a drawer, and it's all sanitized like that. So that stays sanitized or sterilized, which is stronger than sanitization, for many, many days. We're not trying to sterilize everything. Let me just get that clear. We're trying to sanitize. So that is get most of the molds, yeasts, and some of the bacteria, well, as much as we possibly can, without going overboard and sterilizing everything. We have to make sure stuff's clean, for sure. Can't have any cheese stone on it. It can't have any dirt on it. Can't have any muck on it. Has to be cleaned with hot soapy water first. And then after that, we sanitize. So we're trying to get it kind of as clean as we can get it without going overboard and having to boil every single thing. Even though I do boil all my stuff in a pot, I'm only boiling for 15 minutes. Then I take it out and lay it on a clean tea towel, one that I know has been washed within at least the last week. And that's as good as it gets. And I haven't had any issues with contamination, E. coli, listeria, or anything like that, because those bacteria just aren't present in my kitchen. Okay, I'll move along. I know I'm a bit slow today. Sorry about that. Okay. Ekna says, what it do, curd nerds? I don't know if that's a shout out, but hello. Danny, good to see you. G'day, Gavin. I was trying to rid my Gruyere of a blue mold on it, but the brine wash seems to smear the mold. Any tips? Yeah, to that simple brine, add a teaspoon of white vinegar, and that'll knock back any molds that are growing, and it won't make the surface too acidic. So that should help, Danny. So next time you wash it, a little bit of, like I said, a teaspoon of white vinegar, and you should be okay. You shouldn't have to wash it as much. Okay, Sarah says, does the vinegar interfere with the taste? No, it doesn't, because the things that you sanitize don't directly come in contact with the cheese itself. The cheesecloth has only been boiled, hasn't been sprayed with vinegar. So no, it doesn't have any issue. It's only an acid, and a little bit of acid cheese is a good thing. Soren says, what is a good beginner cheese? I don't have a cave. Give ricotta and paneer a go. They're always cool. And there is a video that I've done, and it lists about 8 or 9 different cheeses that you can make without a cheese cave. So if Kim can find that and pop the link up for Soren, that'd be fantastic. Martin says, thanks. No, thank you. All right. Where am I up to? Where are we? Oh, Igor. Do you have any advice on making a natural rind? Is the cheese kept in a plastic box all the time? Good question, Igor. And it depends on your cheese cave setup. If you've got a walk-in room or basement or a cave, indeed a cave, then yeah, you don't need to have a ripening box. But because I've got a small fridge, and you saw that in the recent What's in My Cheese Cave video, I do keep those ones in a ripening box just to make sure that I've got the right humidity to create that natural rind. Sometimes if I don't check it weekly like I should, the moisture tends to sit on the lid, and then if too much moisture, it drips onto the cheese and makes the cheese go soggy, and it stuffs up your rind. So that's a thing to watch as well. So you got to make sure, absolutely, you got to check it every single week. That's probably one of my worst mistakes when I do affinage, is that I don't check the cheese enough. But yeah, I'm getting better. Okay, hope that answers your question. Alex says, I finally got to try my first aged cheese, and it was just awful. Ooh, I made a Monterey Jack that was as sour as vinegar. It wasn't infected as far as I could tell. What are other possible causes? Other possible causes, two main ones. Too much rennet usually causes bitterness, or too much calcium chloride. That's a little bit bitter. Also, not stirring enough. The curds were probably too large before you press them, because a lot of whey gets trapped in there, and that tends to hold a lot of acid, so it makes the cheese acid. So that's two things that I can think of. There probably are many, many other causes too, unfortunately, but they're the two main ones you've got to watch out for. Brendan says, I think I might start to get the rennet you use. Yeah, look, I don't have any issues with it, Brendan. It's really good. Don't have any mistakes. Rarely, it's usually the milk, not the rennet, that's at fault when some of the things don't work out quite as well as I want them to. Never had any issues with Chimax Plus. Auntie says, hi there. I saw you put your cheese in the plastic bag, and after that you suckle the air out. Even that cheese is in a plastic bag. Should I watch out for the humidity? No, you don't have to. Once you vac pack or vacuum pack any cheese, humidity's out the window. You don't care about that, because it's in a sealed environment. It's going to develop its enzymes. They're going to break down the fats and proteins and turn them into lipids, which are the things that create flavour in your mouth, which are great. They don't need air. Okay. C says, I have access to a limestone cave. Oh, how good's that? Would raw milk cheese turn naturally? Would raw milk cheese turn naturally? Turn naturally what? Would it mature naturally? Yeah, it would. As long as the humidity's okay. Make sure you mature on pine wood, on pine planks, if you've got access to a cave. And watch out for the bats. They're a killer, I've been told. They'll eat your cheese every time. Kitty cats, hello to you. I'm only at 10 past, and it's 20 past now. Good morning to Kitty cats. And if you weren't on the show before, Kitty cats, thank you for your patronage too, by the way. Drew F, good morning, Drew. Lovely to see you on this fine morning. Tughan, hi, how are you? Cruss says, and welcome, Cruss, when do you have to keep an eye on your cheese? When it's up to no Gouda. Which reminds me, I have a joke. I have a joke this morning too. The joke is, what cheese belongs on the handlebars of a tiny bike? Anyone? Baby Bell. Oh, so good. There we go. If you're not laughing now, you'll never laugh at my cheesy jokes. Anyway, that's the cheesy joke of the day. Aduna, think that's how you pronounce it. When you made lactose-free cheese, did you find that affected the pH of the cheese making at any stage of it? No, it didn't actually. I didn't test the pH, so I can't professionally say yes or no. But all the steps worked okay, and they wouldn't if the milk wasn't acidic enough. The curds didn't set as well as I would like them to. So they did fracture a tiny bit, and you can see that in the video. But certainly, I would only make the lactose-free cheese. It's got to be fresh. It's got to be under a month old. I wouldn't age it because, as my daughter Amy said, it tasted a bit winey. So there was some fermentation happening there as well to create a alcohol sort of flavour, which is a bit crazy. So just be careful of that one. Okay, where am I up to? Sorry, I've gone backwards somehow. Patrick says, "Hey Gavin, just want to thank you for all that you do. I just got a job working at a non-profit dairy farm education centre as a resident cheesemaker. Couldn't have done it without your help. Fantastic. Well done, Patrick." Brendan says, "I think I've worked out what that white powdery stuff that settles at the bottom of the brine. I reckon it's the anti-caking agent they put into it." Yeah, it could be, Brendan. I tend to use salt without anti-caking agent, and what seems to settle out on the bottom is just salt. It's too, I've made the brine too heavy, but over time it settles out, so that's cool. But yeah, it could be. I know I used to make brine with non-iodized salt that did have anti-caking agent in it, and there was that white powder they put at the bottom of that settles at the bottom. And you're right, it could be anti-caking agent. Okay, Auntie says, "Did you also try to make regular cheese from goat's milk? I've only seen a few videos about feta cheese and the bloomy goat cheese." No, I haven't. Goat's milk is expensive where I am. It's like $4.50 a litre, which is just crazy. So very hard to get cheap goat's milk. I've got to find somebody with a goat, I suppose. Peace Lily says, "Thank you, Mr. Weber, for all you do. No problems at all." And the Mystery says, "Hello." And Carol, hello, Carol, how are you? Hi, Gavin. I just wanted you to know that my son and his friends thought I'd lost my mind for trying to make cheese. Now they fight over the finished product. That's fantastic. Absolutely. And Kim, thank you for that link. Carol also says, "Also, the looks I get from the cashier at the grocery store are priceless when I buy 5 gallons of milk for a weekend of cheese making." It's exactly the same look I get. But even worse, when I go and do a cheese making workshop, the whole trolley is just full of milk. So it's nearly 25 litres of milk. So they go, "What are you doing with all the milk?" I said, "I'm making cheese." "Oh, I didn't know you could do that." "Where does it come from?" "Oh, the shelf over there." Crazy. Anyway, let's just pause for a second. I got some news. Somebody contacted me the other day, and it was actually one of the comments on my YouTube channel. And somebody says, "You're famous, dude. You're on Netflix." I went, "Really?" Anyway, let me just show you something. Hopefully it comes out okay. Right, so here's a picture. And I've got to do some stuff. Hang on, let's go. Let me just play this for a couple of minutes. If it works.
Authentic by not trying to be authentic. I think that's
So
a
you're
big
making
flaw in the
pizza,
world
which
of
is a
pizza
good thing.
particularly. It is the most Italian thing, but if you only look at how it's used to be done or how it's supposed to be done, you don't
So
allow
this is a
yourself to
show
move it
called
forward.
Ugly Delicious.
If you
It's the
do
first
an
episode.
authentic Neapolitan pizza, you must import buffalo mozzarella from the Campania region. Now, who makes these rules has an obvious interest in the export of buffalo mozzarella. So how is it that you can be told that freshness is everything. That in Naples, they say you have 24 different mozzarellas for every hour after it's been produced. But still, you need to buy it and import it, and it's going to take you 7 days to get it to Copenhagen. Like, it didn't make sense to me. I need freshness. We'll need to
Doesn't
make it
make sense
ourselves.
to me.
You taught yourself how to make
YouTube.
YouTube.
a lot of YouTube.
Look at that. So there's my quick mozzarella. I was amazed. It's on Netflix, on a Netflix show about pizza. So super excited about that. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So if you want to go and check out Ugly Delicious, which is that show there, the first episode when they talk about pizza, Mr. Man obviously checked out my YouTube channel and made quick mozzarella and put on his pizza. Anyway, pretty cool. So hopefully that sounded okay and there was no echo or anything like that. Alrighty, next question is from Matthew. Matthew says, I'm going to make manchego cheese. I've noticed that many recipes use different quantities of cultures. Most recipes are calling for double and triple the cultures you used. It's a little confusing. Okay, I'll set the record right, shall I? Straight. That's the one I'm saying. Set the record straight. Always use the manufacturer's recommendation for the dosage of the cheese. Now, unfortunately, because we're home cheese makers and we only use a tiny bit of milk compared to 100-litre vats or 100-gallon vats, whatever you see in the commercial world, we have to use minute amount of cultures. Now, I tend to find that the Italian cultures, so ones from Sacco, only use about 1/32 or 1/32 of a teaspoon up to about 1/8 of a teaspoon, and that's enough. It's super concentrated. Other ones like Danisco, which is from France, they actually recommend nearly 1/4 of a teaspoon for the same recipe, right? Other ones I've seen, like the ones from New England Cheese Making Supply, they're 1/4 up to 1/2 a teaspoon of starter culture. Yet, I'm using some of the Sacco ones, and they only use, up to 1/16 to 1/8. So that's what the confusion's about. It's the strength of the cultures that the manufacturers make. Unfortunately, there's no standard across any of them as to dosage of similar strains of bacteria, like Lactococcus coccus and Lactobacillus. So those different strains of bacteria, even though they're the same, they're named the same, they don't dose them at the same rate. So unfortunately, I kind of say usually what kind of culture I'm using. So hopefully that helps and you can adjust. I tend to find that the ones that are available in North America and Europe are a little on the stronger side. Not Europe, France. But the Italian ones are stronger still, so use even less. Anyway, hopefully that helps, Matthew. But with that said, you really can't overculture your cheese. Okay, you can underculture it so the acidity doesn't get high enough in that first ripening phase. But if you've added a little bit more, it's not a big deal. Really isn't. It won't once all the lactose is gone, it's gone. Brevibacterium, the lactic bacteria basically die and turn into enzymes, which then work on the fats and proteins in the cheese. Okay, Ellen says, hi, Gavin. What's your favourite soft ripened cheese? I would have to say the Bloomy Goat Blue was one of my most absolute favourite cheeses that I've made that is a soft cheese that could be eaten within, I think it was about 10 days. And that was absolutely amazing. And also, an honourable mention goes out to Sherv, which is a soft goat's cheese. And that is absolutely delightful the next day. It's just fantastic. NKY says, just got home, glad I caught you. Thanks for turning up. If I remember, that's Jason. Where are we up to? Let me just have a look. My goodness. I am all over the place. Marcia. Marcia says, live from Brazil. Thank you. Your cheese, my cheeses are fantastic with your recipes. Thank you, Marcia, and you've been a great supporter of the of buying stuff from the shop as well. Appreciate that. And we ship all the way to Brazil, and all the cultures work fine. So anybody's worried about when people, companies ship starter cultures, if they can make it from Australia to Brazil, they're doing all right. Okay. Katia says, hello, Gavin. I love your videos, but I'm a little confused with the chemical ingredients. Can I replace them? How could? Um, there aren't any chemical ingredients. They're just the natural ingredients that cheesemakers have been using for thousands of years, except for calcium chloride. So calcium chloride is not one of the original ingredients that were in cheeses from days old. It's only because we now pasteurize milk, we have to put in a little bit of calcium back in so the curd will set. If you're using raw milk, you don't even need to use starter cultures, basically, because the lactic bacteria are already in the they're already in the milk itself. So you just take the raw milk, add rennet to it, turn it into a cheese. So that's one way to do it. Drew says, that's a shocker. Nice one, Gav. Yeah, I thought it was quite good. Wayne says, I'd like to see you make Tellagio using a Tellagio mould, Gav. Great show. Funny you should say that. I do have a Tellagio mould, Wayne, but I don't have there's little mat that goes underneath that makes it look like the reeds that they have in Tellagio. So, yeah, I'm going to get there eventually. Cloha7, what cheese is made backwards? Edam, yes it is, made backwards, only in English though. Turgan says, hi Gavin, is it possible to make cultured cheese from pasteurised, homogenised milk? Yes, it is. If you go and have a look at Cheshire, the video I put up 2 weeks ago, I did use pasteurised, homogenised milk. It did have a lot of trouble setting the curd because of homogenisation, which breaks up the fat globules, so that a cream doesn't rise to the top of the bottle. But it made a cheese. In fact, I would say the first 10 cheeses I ever made were pasteurised, homogenised. And they weren't roaring successes, but they were okay. So if you want to make an okay cheese, then use pasteurised, homogenised milk. But if you're just starting off and that's all you can afford, then give it a go. But you may have to extend the renneting time. So the time that the milk sets after you've added the rennet. Okay, Alex. Hello, Alex. It would be the rennet. I didn't have calcium chloride, so I used double rennet. Thought it was a bad press because the cat knocked the weights off in the middle of the night. Yes, so you don't add double rennet. It causes bitterness. Helen says, hi, Gavin. Could you please say a shout out to my boyfriend, Cheyenne, for his birthday? We're in England and we love your videos so much. Happy birthday, Cheyenne. Carol says, rolled on the floor, laughed my ass off. I think that's what it is. Yes, for the video Netflix, yeah, it was pretty cool. Mandoline, yeah. Hi, Gavin. Denver in, oh, sorry. I'll start again. Steve in Denver, glad you got better. Once a while ago, you recommended on temperature and length of stirring in high altitude areas. Can't find your answer. Is the temperature higher or lower? And stir time. Okay, if I remember rightly, what I answered last time is because water boils at a lower temperature than 100 degrees Celsius at high altitudes, especially like a place like Denver in the Rocky Mountains, I think it boils at about 96 degrees Celsius. The temperature, I would do 1 degree lower, basically, for all your milk ones to get it to work out. And stirring time should be the same. It's no big deal as far as altitude goes. You know, they make cheese in the Swiss mountains, which is just as high as Denver. and the stir times seem to be about the same as what mine are. Okay, moving right along. I'm only 10 minutes behind. Iron, Irenon Moya. Sorry if I got that wrong. Thank you for all your great ideas. My mozzarella always somehow yellowish, even the curd in the end. Maybe too hot, and the mozzarella diva gets a bit gummy. Is it me or the milk? It'll be the milk because there's in some milks there's a lot of beta carotene, which causes yellowing in cheese. But that's okay. Mozzarella can be yellow. It's no big deal. In fact, most of the store-bought mozzarella is yellow, and the only reason that's yellow is because I've added annatto to it. And annatto is a colouring agent, which is very similar to what I used in this cheese. Anyway, enough of that excitement. It's got me so excited, that cheese. I can't wait to take it out of the press, which I'm going to do after this show. Okay, MJ, epic win. Yes, and Sarah, wow. I think they're talking about the show. Josh says, milk question. All of my milk comes with vitamin D3 added. Will this harm the cheese making process? I can't see why it wouldn't. It would. No, sorry, I couldn't see why it would. Now I know that I think in Canada, a lot of the milks are fortified with vitamin A and vitamin D, and people still successfully make cheese for those milks. So I couldn't see why that would be an issue. Sarah says you should get your own cheesy show on Netflix. I've got my own cheesy show on YouTube, so I don't know what the difference would be. Drew says, congratulations. Thank you. George, can you give me a shout out? Hello, George. Love your channel. You're so cool. I'm not the coolest guy around, honestly. I'm sure. I'm not a celeb for anybody's business. Just a humble bloke making cheese in his kitchen and showing the world how to do it. Okay, Auntie says, thank you for your answers. No problems. Mr. Fanciful says, how long have you been making cheese? Since 2009. So that's 9 years. Pretty good. So it's taken me 9 years to actually get enough courage to make a marbled cheddar. Okay, so where I'm up to, I think it's Beta. Beta says, what is the best best recipe to start making cheese? If you go back, Kim put a link up. Go and check out the video that says beginner's cheeses to make without a cheese fridge. And you'll see about 5 or 6, maybe 10, I can't remember. Lots of cheeses to make without using a cheese fridge, and they're all fairly simple, so it's pretty good. Chloe, I can't even say it. Chloe 7. How safe is it to make cheese from milk that was milked fresh the day of? What are the limits? Grams per litres or salt, pH levels that inhibit growth of unwanted microorganisms and promote our lacto. Okay, so it is fairly safe. It depends on the cattle you're using, the milking conditions, everything's got to be clean, all that sort of stuff. And you can use, for thousands of years, I've been using milk straight from the cow or goat or sheep. But usually that you should, if it hasn't been chilled down to 4 degrees Celsius, you need to use that within 3 hours, because then after 3 hours, the bad bacteria in the milk, if there are some, will start to overpopulate the good lactic bacteria that you want to promote within that. So hopefully that answers your question. So within 3 hours, if it hasn't been chilled to 4 degrees Celsius, which is 39 Fahrenheit off the top of my head. Ruth says, I want to make my own cheese so bad, but it's just so expensive. Ruthie, it's not expensive when you look at the basic cheeses that you can make with all the gear in your kitchen. All you need is milk and vinegar or milk and citric acid. So cheap to make some of the basic cheeses that you can make. and they're just acid set cheeses. Okay, and if worse comes to worse, if you can't find mesophilic culture, go and find some cultured buttermilk, and that has mesophilic culture in it, and add about 7% of that to the ratio of milk, and you got yourself a quick mozzarella, a, a quick starter culture without having to buy sachets of direct vat inoculated. Doniger, late to the party. Yes, you are. Half an hour late. There's only 20 minutes to go, but welcome anyway. Shlomo says, if I mix ultra-pasteurised milk with non-pasteurised milk, will it work? No, it won't, because the ultra-pasteurised milk won't set a curd for anybody's business, and doesn't matter if you mix it with anything, you won't get a curd set, unfortunately. Sarah says, do you ship to Saudi Arabia, and can the culture survive the heat? Yeah, the culture can survive. I think it's up to, well, it says on the description sheet, specification sheet of the culture, it can survive up to 10 days at 30 degrees Celsius. So if you can get it there quick enough, it'll be fine. But like I said before, I think Maria said that she receives all my cultures fine from Australia to Brazil. So yes, I think so. And I think we do ship to Saudi Arabia. I'll have to check. But I can't do that right now. If it doesn't come up in the shipping list, then it means we don't ship there. We don't ship to some countries that they just confiscate them at customs, and unfortunately, one of the ones are Israel confiscates all our cultures when we ship into the country, but we can ship in equipment, and that doesn't get confiscated. Okay, Crust says, are you selling that book of cheesy jokes? This one? No, we're not, because it was just a Christmas present that Kim got for me. But I'll see where she got it from, and if we got it, I might pop it up on the website, Little Green Workshops. Doniger says, wait, you don't have to use cultures when using raw milk. Yes, you don't. So within that 3 hours, there will be enough lactic bacteria that's developed. You do have to, and I haven't done this myself, so don't quote me on this. They wait a certain period of time, check the pH of the milk. I don't know how they did it in the old days because I haven't seen how they do it. But yeah, there's enough lactic bacteria in the milk that it will set with rennet. It'll be acidic enough after a few hours. Because remember when they, because they don't cool it down to 4 degrees Celsius, which slows down all of the bacterial activity. If they leave it at the temperature it comes out of the animal, which is about 36 degrees Celsius, the bacteria, perfect environment for the bacteria to start growing and multiplying and eating the lactose in the milk. So that's what happens. Ruthie says, I enjoy watching you make cheese from Bentonville, Arkansas, home of Walmart. I don't know if that's a claim to fame, home of Walmart, but yeah, thanks, Ruthie. George, what's the hardest cheese you've ever made? The hardest cheese as in most difficult, or the hardest? The hardest would be Parmesan. I made one without actually waxing or vac packing it and left it to form a natural rind for a whole year, and it was like a rock. So if hardness, or most difficult would be provolone. I didn't have the patience to wait until it acidified to the right level to stretch it. NKY, aka Jason, says, if I choose to use pasteurised goat's milk and it's naturally homogenised, would you still add calcium chloride? Yes, I do. When I use any goat's milk, I still add a little bit of calcium chloride because it does set a weaker kind of curd. There's a lot more fat content in goat's milk. But yeah, because it's the pasteurization process, that's the killer of the calcium. So yeah, add a little bit, it won't hurt. Geo says, good morning, Gavin. My professor, oh, I'm the professor. Oh, g'day. How long should I pasteurize the milk? 65 Celsius for how long? Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Go and check out the low temperature long hold pasteurization video that Kim will find for you and put up in the link. I know I'm nearly 15 minutes behind. Breezy girl, g'day. How are you? Zane, Gavin, I want to order my supplies from you. Do you ship to Utah? And will everything be fine when, will everything I order arrive okay? Yes. Yes, it will. It will be fine. And yes, we do ship to the US. We don't care what state it is. We'll ship there. Okay. Danny says, I made wine-infused cheddar a few days ago. I'm looking to get a nice cheddar flavour, slightly creamy, but not a crumbly texture. In your opinion, how long should I age it for? I would age it for between 4 to 6 months, and then you'll get a creamy texture. Anything over 6 months, it starts to get that crumbly texture, like I showed in the 1-year-old cheddar video that I produced. And the flavour, mind you, was absolutely amazing for that cheddar. So, yeah, between 4 to 6 months, and you'll get a creamier texture, probably more towards the 4 months. So, Dawn said, oh, sorry, April Dawn, thank you for all the information. This may be a silly question, but do you keep your milk over the double boiler through the entire heating process, or is it different cheese type dependent? Yeah, good question. So when I heat the milk up, I keep it on the double boiler until I get to the ripening stage, and then I turn the heat off. Now, sometimes because there's still steam coming up underneath, I tend to take the pot off of the little one to stop the temperature rising. So when it's going through its ripening time, it doesn't increase in temperature. So sometimes I take it off. Depends on the size of the pot. If I'm using my monster pot, that's 15 litres, and it's got a lot of milk in it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't increase in heat. But if I'm using the small 8 litre or 2 gallon pot, it tends to creep up. So I take it off that and then put it back on again when I need to do the renneting. So you really just, it depends on, I've been doing it for a while, so I kind of know now whether the temperatures, if you see it starting to creep up, just take it off the small pot, put it on the back burner without any heat, of course, and the temperature stays the same. Milk has this amazing property of maintaining its temperature, its own heat, for quite a while, up to an hour. Rarely does it drop down 1 or 2 degrees, so it's pretty cool. Okay, moving right along, and where are we up to? I've just lost everything. Kim's talking to somebody. Okay. Geo, thanks for your videos about the camembert. Sometime the cheese smells ammonia. Yes, it does. Brizzy girl, I watched the cool video this morning of a Mexican lady making traditional queso fresco. She did everything by hand, including working the curd to remove the whey. Yep, and that's actually where I get some of my ideas, is watching those artisan videos where people in the village have just milked the cow or the goat. And that's kind of how I get ideas for some of the cheese making videos or the cheeses that I make. Certainly for cheeses like halloumi, the recipes that I had in books were rubbish. They were absolute rubbish. And I want to look at the authentic one. And there's an authentic one that comes up when you watch my first halloumi video. It's one of the recommended videos. It's one from Cyprus, where you see 2 ladies, one Turkish one Greek one, Cypriots, making halloumi from fresh milk, and show you the process. So I just followed those and it worked out great. Charlie says, hello, Gavin. I enjoyed watching the last video you made about cleaning the mould. Well, it was only because of your idea, Charlie, that I made it, because it was a really good one. I thought, why not? Hopefully that helped a lot of people get over their phobia about moulds and spots of moulds on their cheese. Cheese has mould on it. That's what it does. It's the perfect breeding ground for moulds, yeasts, and bacteria. And if you can clean them off and keep them going, then it's all good. Okay, Matthew, I've just started making cheese in December, having trouble with not being able to get a clean break. I've changed milks, rennets, and cultures on the kettle. Any advice? My advice will be to wait a little bit longer. Um, I've been known to wait up to an hour longer to get a clean break, depending on the milk type. And it really does depend on the milk. Usually, some of the milks do not say they're ultra pasteurized on the back when they are. Uh, and that is sometimes criminal as far as I'm concerned. You buy a whole bunch of milk, sometimes even the organic ones are the worst because they don't fly off the shelves like the normal regular milk. They want to have a longer shelf life, so they ultra pasteurize organic milk, and that creates a world of hurt for any home cheesemakers. Yeah, so I would wait longer, basically. So try that next time. Rog Zodiac, have you ever thought of doing a halloumi cheese for a video? In fact, I have, Rog. I've done two. There's two halloumi videos on the channel, so go and search and check those out. Kitty Cats, you're cool and a celeb to us curd nerds. Thanks, Wendy. MJ, yes, we celebrate you. So there. Okay, all right. You could put a ring on it. What? Kim says, I think he's cool. Yes, yes, we're married. No, me and Kim are married. Danny says, did you hear about the cheese that failed to win the medal at the Olympics? It fell at the final curdle. Nice one, Danny. Corey, what's the best way to start making cheese for beginners? You know what the best way is, or the best way? Yeah, the best way, no pun intended, is just to start. Get some milk, get some vinegar, bring the milk up to 95 degrees Celsius, add your vinegar and watch it curdle and strain it, and there you got cheese. So many people seem to be holding back. I don't know why. Cheese making is simple. The first cheese you ever make will be the best cheese. It'll stick in your mind, even whether it's a disaster or not, or comes out all right. It'll be fantastic. Anyway, I'm moving right along. Kitty cats. We used to grab a goat and squirt it straight into a cup of coffee. Yeah, we used to do the same with my dad used to do that when we were milking the cows. He'd go, Gav, come and look at this. Then he'd squirt me in the face or squirt the cat in the face. Okay. Eaton says, Cheeseman, sing us a song. Your curds are so heavy and the evening draws long. Oh, you're a poet. I love it. Somebody told me the other day I shouldn't sing the final countdown anymore. I think it was Graham Strong. Oh, who's here? How fortunate is that? Graham is the guy that gifted me the sheep's milk that I made a few videos with. Anyway, he's in the chat there at 8:42, which is now 10 minutes ago. Doug says, can you tell us about what makes cheese melt? Is it the aging process? No, it's the amount of fat in the cheese, basically, and what you do with it. Yeah, all right. So it's the amount of fat and it's the aging process that makes cheese melt. So number 7, helpful answer. Your channel and podcast are amazing. Keep up the good work. Yeah, and that reminds me, I'm a bit slack on the podcast actually, because these Ask the Cheese Man videos are kind of taken over from the podcast. They're a lot quicker to produce, and because when I record a podcast, I tend to go back and take all the ums and ahs and all that sort of stuff out of it, and it takes me twice the amount of time to do a podcast episode than it does to do a YouTube video. So time is money, folks. Graham says, greetings, Mr. Weber. Greetings, Graham, as I mentioned. Is it possible to add more salt to an undersalted cheddar midway through affinage? I haven't heard of this question before, so thought others might be curious. Midway through affinage, no, unfortunately not. Because the acidification's already started, it would be very hard to get salt back into the cheese. The only way I could think of doing it would be to brine the cheese. But if there's not enough salt to start with, remember salt's a preservative and it inhibits runaway bacterial growth. So very difficult to get that cheese under control. You could mill it again, add more salt, and then press it again. But if it's like halfway through, if like 2 or 3 months into the cheese making process, I think it's probably a lost cause. I'd eat it right now, before it starts to get sour, because what will happen is there'll be too much acid created, because there'll be so much lactose converted into lactic acid. There, you it'll be bitter, sour, won't taste like cheddar. So maybe not. Anyway, that's my answer. Not having experienced it, but that's what I think would happen chemically within the cheese, because the salt's not there to slow down the lactic bacterial growth and eating the lactose. DJ says, make a video about cheese curds. I have already made a video about cheese curds. Go and have a look on the channel, unless Kim's can get the link up in the next 5 minutes. Okay, getting close to the end, and I got so many more to answer. Didn't have any super chats today, hint, hint, but I would have got to those questions faster. Aoda, I can't pronounce it, sorry. Love the videos. A few months ago, I would never have guessed I would have started being interested in cheese. I know, it's catchy, isn't it? It's so addictive. S says, Steve again, Denver, when you say longer rennet set for homogenised milk, how much longer? Very difficult, if not impossible, to find non-homogenised milk. I would say up to, well, I experienced the other day, it was 30 minutes longer before I got a curd to set. I checked the curd break when I normally do, around 40, 45 minutes, and it was still fairly sloppy. It was starting to set, but I had to wait another 30 minutes before it had set properly, and when I put my finger in, or the knife, you didn't get slop on the edge of the knife. So that's how much longer, Steve. Loney, hi there. I'm going to try and make queso fresco tonight. Good luck. Good luck, yes, wish you good luck. DJ, I love Wisconsin-style sticky curd, cheese curds. Well, that's how I made it. Moving right along, Kim, got a link. Good. Thank you, love. Mid-South Records, are you willing to do other food content beside cheese? No. Cheese sells. Cheese is the food. I love cheese. I don't do anything else. I might do, when I do the raclette, I promised when that's ripe, I will do raclette potatoes on the channel. And I will be scoffing that in front of in front of you, of course, eating. But yeah, that sort of stuff. Stuff with cheese, probably, if anything. Ben, what's your all-time favourite cheese to make or eat? Every cheese is a new adventure, and they're all very exciting. So I have no favourites. Loney says, have a dairy and golden. Okay. Tim, have you ever considered using a sous vide circulator in the water bath to heat your milk so you don't have to fuss with a double boiler? I have thought of that, and Brendan, who's watching, does use that with great success. It does work. Don't put it in your milk. Put it in the water bath, not the milk. So I would have to take up the whole sink area, fill that with water, put the sous vide in it, or get a bain-marie, one of those plastic bain-maries, I think they're called, and do that. I've got 2 minutes to go, guys. Have I ever made Oaxaca? No, I haven't, Tim. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a stretchy cheese ball. Looks pretty cool. I'll get around to it. What's the difference between making cheese in America and Australia? Not much. Different countries, same planet, It's all good. Danny, have you heard of maturing cheese in straw and hay? I have. I have indeed. I'm not sure how to do it, though, because it actually tends to heat up. The straw and hay, that does. Mid-South Records, have you ever heard of Kazumazu? Yes, I have, but no, I haven't. You figure out which one's which. Jeff, hey, Gavin, can I make brine from leftover whey? Yes, you can. Just add salt to your brine, and actually it works a lot better than just a normal plain water brine, because it's the same pH level as the cheese that you're going to put into it. So you don't have to put vinegar, or very little bit anyway. It's a balanced brine used the way. It's pretty cool. Eaton, have you ever just played with cheese? Sometimes like make cheese salters, cheddar or tanks and brie French. Unfortunately not. I haven't got to that level of creativity yet. MJ, Gavin, you should sing the final countdown at the end of every show. I should, you know. Christopher, hey Gavin, hi, how are you? MJ, I've lost the, where am I back again? MJ, you don't need to edit the ums and ahs from the podcast. They're natural speech. We love your natural speech. Thank you very much. Christopher, have you any recommendations for a good book about cheese? Which ones do you have? Well, of course, there's Keep Calm and Make Cheese, The Beginner's Guide to Cheese Making Home, which is the one that I wrote. There's another good one. This one, which we sell, 200 Easy Homemade Cheese Recipes by Deborah Amron's Boys. Very good book. Kim's giving me the wind up here, so I got to go. Kim's put the links up. She's put up the squeaky cheese curd. Gavin's book. Thank you, honey. And Fem Elf, hello, always at the end, but that's okay. Charlie, when will your new book be a printed version come out? Well, I was aiming for the end of March, but because I've had so many headaches lately, I'm way behind, about a month behind. Kitty Cat says she loves her sous vide. Yes, so don't forget, guys, I'm winding up now. I'm 1 minute over. Don't forget, if you want to support the show, then Kim's put up the Patreon link there. It's also down below in the video description. For as little as $1 US, you can support the show and help us keep it on the air and keep buying the equipment and the hosting and all that sort of stuff that we need to make the show come to you every week. Or a merch, T-shirts, not this one, the other ones. The other ones are in the wash. Joy, thanks for our show. Yes, thank you. And don't forget that you can visit our store to buy all your goodies, littlegreenworkshops.com.au. Links also in the description below. And Kim says, yes, I am working on the book. Thanks, Kitty Cats. One final question. Oh, Kim's it. One final question. What's your mozzarella use 4 litres of milk? But if I use 9 litres of milk, would I need to increase? Yes, double everything. Have a good night, day. Yes, thanks, Famel. Brizzy Girl, another great live stream. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Stay warm or stay cold, wherever you need to be in the world. Thank you, Curd Nerds, and we'll see you next week. Headaches pending, of course. One final look at that wonderful cheese. There it is. First pressing. I love it.
Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.
See you later.
G'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds. Well, g'day, Curd Nerds.